This isn't a motivational speech, so if you came here looking for soft encouragement and permission to keep making the same pathetic excuses, you can hit the back button right now because I'm about to drag you out of the fantasy world you've built for yourself, the comfortable little cage of debt and frustration you call a life, and I'm going to do it without mercy, because the truth is the only currency that matters in the economy of wealth. And right now, your wallet is empty because your mind is poisoned with the most destructive, contagious disease known to the modern American middle class. The poverty mindset, or as I like to call it, the entitlement virus. You sit there, staring at the screen, drowning in student loans, credit card balances, and the crippling anxiety of watching your rent climb higher than your pathetic annual raise. And you blame the system, you blame the government, you point fingers at the 1%. And you construct elaborate narratives about how unfair the game is. But let me deliver the painful injection of reality you desperately need. The game is rigged, yes, but you are the one who willingly chose to play by the rules designed for losers, the rules etched into the walls of the poverty mindset, a mindset that whispers insidious lies every single morning, telling you that you deserve that $7 gourmet coffee because you had a tough week, that you need that new streaming service because you earned the right to relax, and that you can put off learning a marketable skill because you don't have enough time, after working 40 hours just to stay afloat, and that, right there, that deadly cocktail of instant gratification and self-pity, is the difference between the chains you wear and the freedom you pretend to crave. The poverty mindset is fundamentally rooted in victimhood and consumption. It's the belief that external factors control your destiny, making you a passive recipient of whatever meager scraps the economy decides to throw your way, and you embrace this role because it absolves you of the most terrifying responsibility of all, personal ownership, the terrifying realization that if you are poor, it is not primarily because the bank hates you, it's because you have not made the painful, surgical choices required to stop being poor, and believe me, those choices are painful because they involve killing off the parts of yourself that love comfort and immediate reward. You are emotionally addicted to your mediocrity, treating small, unnecessary expenditures not as financial transactions, but as mandatory emotional therapy sessions, buying trinkets and takeout because you feel bad, thereby ensuring you will always feel bad because you are perpetually broke, chasing a fleeting dopamine hit that guarantees long-term financial wreckage, and you call this living, you call this surviving, but it is nothing more than a slow, self-inflicted financial execution. The wealth mindset, conversely, is not about how much money you have right now. It's about how you allocate the finite resources of your time, your energy, and your capital, focusing relentlessly on acquisition, not consumption, and it starts with a brutal, clinical assessment of your life's balance sheet, where you must first itemize every single excuse you've ever made, every single distraction you've allowed, and every single dollar that leaks out of your account on things that offer zero return on investment, things like subscriptions you don't use, clothes you don't need, and the constant psychological drain of chasing approval through material possessions, the very possessions that keep you shackled to a job you hate. This is where the practical, brutal choices begin, and they are not glamorous. They involve embracing the profound, soul-crushing boredom of discipline, the kind of discipline that the poverty mindset actively flees from. First, you must kill the myth of the small leak, the insidious lie that $5 a day doesn't matter, because $5 a day is $1,825 a year, and over 10 years, compounded and invested at even a conservative rate, that's enough to fundamentally alter your trajectory. But you ignore it because the immediate satisfaction of the latte outweighs the abstract potential of future security, demonstrating a catastrophic failure in delayed gratification, which is the foundational pillar of all sustainable wealth. You must treat every discretionary dollar not as currency, but as a soldier you are sending to war, demanding that it return with more soldiers, and if that soldier is instead buying a processed snack or the latest gaming console, you are actively funding the enemy of your own financial future. The brutal choice here is not just cutting the expense, but eliminating the habit that necessitates the expense, understanding that your environment is designed to keep you consuming, so you must actively, militantly design an environment of savings and production. Second, you must stop trading your time for linear, capped income and start trading it for asymmetric, scalable skills. The poverty mindset demands comfort and certainty in learning. It insists on a certification or a traditional degree before it acts, clinging to the familiar structure of institutional approval, but the wealth mindset recognizes that skill acquisition is a continuous, often uncomfortable, and entirely self-directed process, meaning you must dedicate 90 minutes every single day, not to Netflix, not to scrolling through the manufactured happiness of social media, but to learning something specific, difficult and relevant to the economic landscape of the next decade, whether that's coding, advanced data analysis, high-level copywriting, or complex automation techniques. This is the mandatory tax on your future success, and if you claim you don't have the time, you are simply admitting that your daily ritual of wasting hours on distraction is more important to you than escaping the financial treadmill you despise. Time poverty is a choice, not a condition, and your inability to ruthlessly prioritize is the anchor dragging you down. Third, and perhaps most psychologically challenging, you must embrace the concept of financial isolation, which means severing ties, or at least severely limiting contact, with people who actively cultivate the poverty mindset, the friends and family who mock your sacrifice, who pressure you into expensive, frivolous outings, who constantly preach the gospel of YOLO, you only live once. A philosophy that is nothing more than a thinly veiled excuse for financial recklessness. These people are not your allies, they are emotional liabilities, and their low standards are actively holding your high potential hostage, because human beings are biologically programmed to conform to the average of their closest 5 peers, and if your 5 closest peers are deeply indebted and obsessed with immediate pleasure, you will inevitably follow them into the financial abyss. Wealth is often built in silence, in the quiet, disciplined execution of tasks that look boring or restrictive to the masses, and you cannot afford to have your focus constantly disrupted by those who refuse to play the long game. The wealth mindset understands that money is simply a byproduct of value creation. You are not paid for your time, you are paid for the value you deliver in that time, and if your value proposition is low, your income will be low regardless of how many hours you clock, so the only viable path is to ruthlessly and constantly increase the quantifiable value you bring to the marketplace, demanding that you stop consuming information and start producing results, demanding that you stop complaining about your circumstances and start building assets, demanding that you stop waiting for permission and start taking radical, uncomfortable action right now. Forget the lottery win, forget the inheritance, forget the magical stock tip. Your wealth will be built on the back of relentless self-improvement, painful sacrifice, and the unwavering discipline to look at your current financial reality and accept, without reservation or external blame, that you are exactly where your habits and mindset have earned you the right to be. This level of radical ownership is the only antidote to the poison of the poverty mindset, because it strips away every single excuse, leaving you face to face with the uncomfortable truth that your future is entirely dependent on the decisions you make between now and the end of the day, decisions you currently seem incapable of making because they require trading the easy comfort of today for the difficult freedom of tomorrow. You have been conditioned by a consumer society to believe that happiness is found in acquisition, that security is found in employment, and that satisfaction is found in leisure, but I am telling you that financial freedom is found only in subtraction, in the systematic elimination of debt, unnecessary wants, and toxic influences, and in the relentless, almost obsessive, redirection of every spare resource towards capital growth, skill acquisition, and income diversification. It's about shifting your identity from being a worker who spends to an owner who invests, and this shift is not intellectual, it is psychological warfare waged against your own worst instincts. You must get angry not at the rich but at your own pathetic inaction. You must use that frustration, that boiling rage over your debt statements, not as justification for buying a stress-relieving item, but as fuel for working an extra hour on your side hustle, for finalizing that budget, for automating that savings transfer so you never see the money in your checking account in the first place, forcing yourself to live on less, forcing yourself to adapt, forcing yourself to grow, because comfort is the currency of the poor, and if you continue to prioritize ease and immediate relief, you are simply signing another decade-long lease on the life you claim to hate. The choice is stark and immediate. Are you going to keep negotiating with your weaknesses, or are you going to execute them? Stop planning to be rich someday and start executing the brutal, boring steps required to be financially secure today. You've heard the truth. Now you have a choice. Keep pretending or start building. If you're ready to stop being a victim of your own excuses and the system, hit that subscribe button. We don't do comfort here. We do wealth. This is finance-wise insight. Get to work.